Hello, everybody, and welcome to the War Room. This is for the main card opener for UFC 256 heavyweight clash between the veteran Junior Dos Santos and the new contender. I mean, you could say Ciryl Gane. He's only had 6 fights in his career, and he's stepping there against JDS, who is at 21-8. I'm going to throw a few numbers at you in this one, so please bear with me. There's a lot of interesting stuff with these two coming together. So very much different positions in their career. As I was saying, Ciryl Gane is undefeated in 6 fights, 2 knockouts, 3 submissions. He's also 7-0 in Muay Thai kickboxing with 5 knockouts. So, you know, his background was clear coming into mixed martial arts. He was a kickboxer, and that was what we all expected. He made his MMA debut back in 2018 on TKO and actually picked up the vacant heavyweight title on that night with what was a real nice kind of chin strap front choke, which again was not expected from a guy that moves and fights like a kickboxer. We got the same kind of surprise when he made his UFC debut against Rafael Pessoa, where he won by arm triangle and then went on to submit Dontel Mays with a heel hook. So, you know, a few surprises from Ciryl Gane, really kind of showing that only in a few fights he's a very well-rounded fighter. And he's also a very agile, athletic, lively fighter for a heavyweight as well, which is interesting for me because obviously on the other side we've got Junior Dos Santos, who was another one of those kind of early days athletic heavyweights. Obviously, you know, we had way back in the day Andrei Arlovski, and there were a few others around, but he was always the one that stood out to me as being, you know, a physically well-balanced heavyweight that wasn't too heavy or tall or anything in any particular way. Junior Dos Santos was very much that, and he's always been a boxer in mixed martial arts. You know, he's always had quite a long stance. He's always thrown like a real long hook where he hits with the inside of his palm, sweeping overhands and sweeping hooks. He's got power. You know, I'm going to go through some of his statistics and records in a minute, but you know, I don't need to sell Junior Dos Santos to you. He's a big finisher. You know, he's a big puncher. His takedown defense is excellent, and we've seen that tested numerous times in mixed martial arts. He does throw kicks. You know, we've got a few kicks from him, but I mean, it's always about the boxing. The boxing always sets everything up. And what's nice about his stance, so he's got a very side-on stance, very traditional boxing stance, which does leave his lead leg vulnerable to low kicks. But at the same time, he tends to counter those very well with overhands. So it does tend to upset people's balance when they're throwing a kick to the lead leg, and he's already swiping in with the full power overhand. It does discourage, even if it doesn't hurt them. So that tends to be more his kick defense. As far as his kick offense, he's got a good body kick, but he's got some good spinning kicks. You know, we saw him knock Mark Hunt out with that spinning hook kick, and because he's got such a long stance, the motion of his lead foot for his jab, his head or body jab, is also very similar to the setup for his spinning hook kick. So, you know, it's quite easily disguised, which is why he's quite comfortable throwing it a lot of the time. So, you know, benefits and drawbacks to that kind of stance. But for JDS, you know, and for the heavyweight division, it's worked very well for him over the years. Ciryl Gane, on the flip side, has got a much more, you know, he does sometimes have a long stance, but it's still got much more of a karate feel to it. You know, he's on his toes, he's lively, he's moving. He will switch his stance, but tends to be more comfortable orthodox. The only reason I say that is because the Tanabosa fight, his most recent one, is the only fight we've seen him go to the distance. And Tanabosa's, you know, another one of those fast heavyweights that you know, weighs in near the top end of the scales, but moves like a middleweight. So with the Tanabosa fight, we saw Ciryl Gane have to dig a bit deeper with his striking skill sets. You know, drawing his footwork a bit more and his reaction times to get out of the way of some of the power shots of Bosa. So it was nice to see him tested against someone who I also hold in high regard. There's definitely a big step up here with JDS. It might be the right step up at the right time, given the fact that JDS is maybe on a downward slide. But it may still be, you know, a bit too much of a bite. It might be a step too far already because you know, Ciryl Gane, you know, in 6 fights, he's proven himself against one fighter I think is very good and has a lot of potential in Tanabosa. But then a few fighters that are, kind of middle of the road, bottom level UFC heavyweights at the moment. Guys that have still got a lot to prove in the division before they can be considered as contenders. On the flip side, Junior Dos Santos, you look at his career, you look at his record and who he's faced. His last 3 fights, he fought Ngannou, Blades, and Rosenstrike, and that is the murderer's row of the heavyweight division right there. But then the 3 fights before that, Ivanov, Tuivasa, and Lewis, 3 other guys that have got heavy hands, good striking skills. So, although he's coming off 3 stoppage losses, it does look bad for JDS, but you still can't count him out, especially when he's taking on someone that's relatively new to the MMA game. Let me just read some stats out to you. So, because I find these stats interesting because they're a good comparison. Because the way that UFC Stats breaks it down is we've got Ciryl Gane average fight time 11 minutes 19. Slightly more than JDS, but I find that quite crazy given the fact that JDS has had so many title fights. He's been in main events over and over again. So he's a big finisher. He's not tending to fight the distance. As far as the rest of the stats go, both 6'4". Weight is much of a muchness. It's going to be a few pounds difference, but Ciryl Gane does have a 4-inch reach advantage, which it will be beneficial. He does stand very tall, so he's going to look like the taller fighter in there, but also drifting in and out of range with that footwork, using the full extent of his arms and legs, is going to be beneficial because JDS, he's going to be a beat behind him. He's going to be a bit slower, so that reach advantage is going to be beneficial. As far as the striking stats go, you can see again Ciryl Gane, slightly higher work rate, almost exactly the same in accuracy, less strikes absorbed per minute, and a better defense. You see, they paint a picture, but it's not the full picture. I would just go over the grappling ones just to kind of balance it out. So again, JDS, he's hardly any takedowns compared to Ciryl Gane. 55% takedown accuracy to 60 for Gane, so an advantage there. 100% takedown defense for Gane, and more submission attempts as well. Now the submission game is definitely in Ciryl Gane's corner, just because we just don't see grappling from JDS. He's got 1 submission on his record, and that was a guillotine in, was it second fight? Yeah, his second fight. It was a 50-second guillotine. Someone probably ran into a right hand and level changed immediately and got wrapped up. So I kind of discount that. I've got 1 submission on my record, and it was a guillotine as well, and they can be somewhat accidental. So I'm not looking too much into that. So as far as the submissions go, I've got to go with Ciryl Gane because he's got 3 on his record, and they're not normal submissions. We've got that chin strap choke in his MMA debut. We've got an arm triangle and a heel hook. So there's some variety there. There's some awareness of how to attack the body in various different ways. Whether he can do that to JDS or not, that's the question. And the other big question is whether he can get to the floor. Because if we look at those stats, he looks comparable, if not better, in those ranges. But then if we look at the actual details, and this is where I sit and stare at records and add things together. So Ciryl Gane's takedown defense is 100%, but that's 2 of 2. There's been 2 takedown attempts and they've both been stopped. His takedown accuracy is 60%, but that's only of 5 attempts. That's 3 of 5. So the point I'm making with this is that yes, he is on the stats board, and the stats may look comparable, but if you look into it deeper, the volume of stats that you're drawing from with JDS is far, far greater. Let me give you an example of that. So JDS is not much of a takedown guy either, so that's relatively comparable. Takedown accuracy is 55% for JDS, but that's 5 of 9. So he's not attempted a great deal more, even though he's had a vast amount of fights more than Ciryl Gane in comparison. But his takedown defense, this is the thing I want to focus on. Because you look at this and you go, well, takedown accuracy, I reckon Ciryl Gane might be able to take him down because he's got 3 subs on his record, etc., etc. JDS's takedown defense is 81%. So you go, 90%, 90% of the takedowns get him to the floor. But then you look at who he's fighting against. And I'll give you 3 fights as an example of what he's up against. So the first time he fought Stipe, he got taken down once out of 18 attempts. The third fight against Kane, he got taken down twice out of 13 attempts. But this is the one that will blow your mind. In his fight against Kane the second time around, he was taken down 11 times, but that was of 33 attempts. So the point I'm making is that this may well just be a striking fight. If this fight is taken to the ground, we may even be surprised and see JDS take it there, because although the stats don't paint that picture, the experience that JDS has got, the wisdom over the years, also his ability to, the people that he has taken down, of those 5 takedowns, they've been decent guys, they've all been of higher level than the people that Ciryl Gane's taken down. So there's definitely a possibility that JDS comes out here and plays it safe and doesn't want to tangle with the striking. But then again, he's taking Ciryl Gane down the safest route, because you're not tangling with his striking, yes, but you might be going into a submission that is an ever-growing skill set of his. Okay. JDS has been stopped 6 times. Of his 8 losses, 6 of them have been knockouts or TKOs, and 50% of them were in his last 3 fights. So that is another thing you have to keep in mind when you're trying to figure out which way this fight's going to go. Like JDS has been, for 50% of the times he's been stopped are his last 3 times. So that's going to resonate, that's going to stick in his mind. There's a 3-fight losing streak that's a real pressure on him, which, I don't believe he's been in this position before. No, he hasn't. He's never had 2 back-to-back losses before. So this is new territory for him. He also holds the record for the longest win streak in the heavyweight division as well. So, a losing streak is not what he wants to hold the record for. So that's going to be kind of haunting him as well coming in there. And, he's fighting another guy who's a young up-and-comer in the division, much like Ngannou, Blades and Rosenstrike, that's got a developing skill set from one fight to the next, that he's trying to make a name of himself over the former champion JDS. There's a lot of pressure on his shoulders right now. But, experience is in his court. Octagon time is in his court. We'll just finish on the record book, because I thought this was quite interesting. So for JDS, he pretty much has this locked down. Let me just make sure I've not missed anything. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, just a couple of things I mentioned quickly about Ciryl Gane's striking. He's got an excellent jab. He sets a lot of things up with the jab, and it's very crisp, it's very casual. There's not many tells to it, which is why he lands it so consistently. But he's also very good at setting things up off the jab. And one thing he was doing really well against Tanabosa was hitting him with that uppercut after he slipped off the center line for the jab. JDS has got good head movement, and he uses good head movement because he's got a wide stance. It gives him the balance and the base to shift back and forth. But if he is slipping that jab, that uppercut can creep through. And Cyryl's also great at finding his way into the clinch, landing knees to the body and then getting out again. So, there's range play here for Ciryl, which may not be the same thing for JDS. I think he'll pick the range that he's most comfortable at, which will most likely be boxing range with kick defense. And then he'll maintain there. Ciryl can keep changing this fight as much as he wants. Threaten a takedown, clinch a knee, step in behind a jab and hit him with an uppercut. Vary it. His speed and athleticism is definitely on his side. Youth is definitely on his side. And also the element of surprise, because we've got so much JDS to research from. I could spend 2 days watching his back catalogue, whereas Ciryl, I could do it over breakfast. It's the amount of experience they've got is massively different, but that works positives and negatives both ways. Just before I finish, I want to just again paint a picture of where JDS is at, who he is, what he's already achieved, and also what Cyryl's got to gain by beating him here. So I'm just going to quick scan through these down, but I'm hoping the Raptors do a bit of magic and put this on the page in front of me. 4th in total fights at 22. 3rd in total wins at 15. This is on the heavyweight division, by the way. 6th in total finishes at 10. 2nd in total knockouts at 10. 2nd in decision wins at 5. He's got the longest win streak in the heavyweight division at 9. 7th in title fights, which obviously is not a great deal, but it's 2, and he's still there. And 5th in bonuses at 6. So time served is definitely on JDS's side. Whether that time served is coming to an end, or whether he can keep himself relevant in this division with a win over one of the new top contenders, is what we are going to be watching this fight for. Enjoy the fights. See you next time.